Over the years, FL Studio has become one of the more popular beatmaking softwares on the market. I use the words has become because this hasn't always been the case. There were times when for some reason or another, FL Studio was kind of looked down on as a DAW. At first I thought that this was just in my circle of friends, but a quick Google search verified that this was actually quite common. In this video we're going to take a look at how FL Studio went from a 4-channel MIDI sequencer to being one of the giants in the music production industry. The research stage of this video was actually quite mad. I had this whole gag ready where I was going to throw this image on screen and say FL Studio started as an arcade game. But then I got to actually doing the research and found out that ImageLine, who would go on to create FL Studio, genuinely released a game as their first product. So what was this game, you ask? If you guessed that it was a raunchy adult version of Tetris, then you're absolutely correct. Yes, ImageLine's first release would be suitably named Tetris. The apparent success of ImageLine's first project would see them go up in the adult game world as they began working with a company named Private and continued making adult game titles. It was around this time that ImageLine would employ a key person that would play a huge part in the creation and future of FL Studio. Didier Dambrin was a French programmer employed by ImageLine at just 19. The two parties would meet at the Da Vinci Awards ceremony where ImageLine had just picked up the Multimedia Prize, while Dambrin had came out with the Game Prize as well as winning the overall contest. Although Didier did go on to work on ImageLine games, the company's focus would soon switch from adult gaming to music production. Dambrin said that he drew inspiration from software like the Hammerhead Rhythm Station and Propellerhead's Rebirth. He wanted to create something similar and would soon begin working on his own software named Fruity Loops. According to ImageLine, FL Studio 1.0 never actually released. There are images of it on the internet and there were copies floating around towards the end of 1997, but in early 1998, version 1.2.7 will be the one that ImageLine would release officially. Now at this time it was still extremely basic compared to some of the other DAWs. There was no mixer, no piano roll and no plugins. What Dambrin had made though was a solid proof of concept. This was good enough for ImageLine to focus most of its resources on FL Studio, and this would eventually see them leave the adult game industry behind. Late into version 1, ImageLine would release a beta for the first instrument plugin, the TS404. This was a 2-oscillator bassline synthesizer that would go on to see a full release in Fruity Loops 2. There was actually 17 updates between the release of version 1 and version 2, and these would include things like track soloing and the Humanize tool. Version 2 released in 1999 and brought major updates to Fruity Loops' look and performance. This included smoother visuals and a slightly different layout. Notably, version 2 of FL Studio included the first effects plugins. These were early versions of some of the Fruity plugins that we know and love today. The mixer wasn't fully developed yet though, and these plugins were accessible through the song settings menu. Between versions 1 and 2, DirectX and VST plugin support were implemented, along with the ability to render WAV audio up to 32 bits. Fruity Loops 2 also added a record button to enable live MIDI recording, and simple automation support was added, however this was extremely basic. While the TS404 remained the only stock plugin in version 2, Fruity Loops 3 would be a totally different story. Version 3 of Fruity Loops would be the most substantial one yet. The thing I like the most from these patch notes is that the developers actually said that they fixed the ugliness. This update would bring a ton of new features that improved the performance and usability of Fruity Loops. Some of the new features included a metronome, the typing keyboard could now be used to input MIDI, the Smart Disable feature was added to lower CPU usage, and oh yeah, they added the piano roll too. Looking back now, it's actually mad that all of these chord stamps are here, and so are the good old ghost notes. A simple arpeggiator would be added to each channel in the rack, and the amount of effects inserts was up to 16 along with 4 send tracks. New effects plugins included the Fruity Panomatic and the Fruity Chorus. We'd also see the infamous 3X oscillator, the Fruity Slicer, and the DX10 plugins introduced too. When I used Ableton 9, there was no scale highlighting and you kinda had to work around being able to see ghost notes from your other melodies. I think some of these little additions were what helped define FL Studio. Ghost notes are probably one of the best examples of this. FL Studio had this by default and it just made the software seem more appealing. The 4th version of ImageLine's production software would see the company change its name from Fruity Loops to FL Studio. It's said that ImageLine didn't really want the legal smoke with Kellogg's over the US trademark. But anyway, FL Studio 4 was here. The first big change is that the effects settings window had been replaced with a brand new 64-track mixer. The piano roll would see some improvements with the introduction of the legendary strum tool. FL Studio 4 would also include a good few new plugins. FL Keys, Citrus, and the Flanges plugin, just to name a few. This update marked a huge milestone for FL Studio, and some of the new additions like the strumming and humanizing tools were very innovative for the time and made FL Studio's piano roll truly unique. In November of 2004, ImageLine would drop FL Studio 5. Version 5 would see less new plugins and features than previous versions, but the stuff that they did add was pretty sick. This update added the Wave Shaper plugin as well as the FPC drum machine. We'd also see the introduction of an arpeggiator in the piano roll, as well as the Make Unique feature for editing duplicated audio clips. December 2005 would see the release of FL Studio version 6. This update added the Fruity multiband compressor and the EQ-UO plugins. We'd also see the Fruity Reverb plugin get an update to version 2. The split by channel option was added so you could now separate your patterns. The mixer seen some changes to the way that tracks are routed, and it could also now be resized horizontally. Probably one of my favourite features in FL Studio is the scale highlighting, and an early version of this would also be added to version 6. A few other DAWs have this feature now, but FL Studio were miles ahead with this one, and this is just one more thing that made them stand out. With the detect scale option turned on, FL Studio would identify what scale you're in and then highlight all of the other notes that belong to it. This sounds basic in 2024, but you've got to think that this was implemented into FL Studio nearly 20 years ago. FL Studio 7 would drop in January of 2007, and this seen some small changes to the way that FL Studio looked. This update also introduced two plugins that would quickly become fan favourites. The Fruity Love Filter, a versatile tool for adding warmth and character, and Edison, an all-in-one audio recorder and editor. ImageLine would also replace the Fruity Parametric EQ with a new and improved version. In June 2008, ImageLine would celebrate FL Studio's 10th birthday. They would do this with the release of FL Studio 8. This update, like version 7, would bring a ton of bug fixes and quality of life improvements. The iconic SliceX plugin was released in version 8, and so were the Fruity Limiter and Sound Goodizer plugins. We'd also get some changes to the way that the playlist worked. Up until this point, patterns have always been in their own section of the playlist. Version 8 would see a new way of arranging tracks where MIDI, audio, and automation could all be arranged in one place. This would take the playlist a step closer to the one that we're familiar with in more recent versions. The following September, ImageLine would release version 9 of FL Studio. This update's seen the mixer scale up, which now allowed for 99 inserts. There was also a bunch of new icons added, and 64-bit VST plugins were now supported. New plugins included Ogun, a powerful additive synth that allows users to create rich and textured sounds, and then Autogun is a black hole of presets that are made using the Ogun engine. As of 2024, there is genuinely over 4 billion presets in this plugin. Also added was Harmless, a hybrid synth that used both additive and subtractive synthesis. Vocodex, a versatile vocoder that could be used to add robotic or harmonized vocal effects, but it was Grossbeat that would emerge as the undisputed star of this update. This monster of a plugin uses volume and time manipulation to create interesting effect patterns. This could do anything from volume ducking to the infamous halftime effect. Grossbeat is just another example of how FL Studio was innovating. Later into version 9, ImageLine surprised users with previews of upcoming plugins like Newtone and Pitcher. Coming 2 years later in 2011, FL Studio 10 was huge. This update seen a new playlist that would no longer be split into two parts. All of your clips, automation, and patterns would now be arranged on one unified playlist. The piano roll also seen some graphical improvements and now could be zoomed in vertically as well as horizontally. In terms of plugins, FL Studio 10 introduced two powerful new tools for pitch manipulation. Pitcher, which is a real-time pitch correction plugin similar to something like Auto-Tune, and Newtone, a comprehensive pitch editing tool for correcting and manipulating individual notes. Patcher was also added, and this is a versatile tool that acts as a modular environment within your DAW. Patcher allows you to connect various plugins and effects in a chain, essentially creating your own instruments and effects racks. In April 2013, FL Studio 11 would drop, prioritizing stability and optimization over major feature additions. This version focused primarily on bug fixes and enhancements, ensuring a smoother experience for users. ImageLine were very much focused on the introduction of 64-bit versions of all of their stock plugins. Despite its modest feature set, FL Studio 11 represented a step forward in refining the software's functionality and reliability. FL Studio 12, released in April 2015, was probably the biggest visual update we've ever seen. This version introduced a massively overhauled GUI with nearly all elements being vectorized and resizable. This allowed for a more flexible and visually appealing experience for the user. Another feature added in version 12 was window snapping, which enabled different windows within the software to snap to the sides of the screen, offering a more organized and efficient workflow. The playlist also saw some improvements, with the pattern section now positioned to the left, a layout that has become familiar to users today. Additionally, a new method for adding channels to the channel rack was introduced, featuring a convenient Add New Channel button. Over the next few years, ImageLine would release numerous beta versions and release candidates, and these beta versions incorporated significant new features. Among these were the transient processor and an updated version of the Fruity delay. These updates and new plugins were thoroughly tested in beta versions and would go on to be fully integrated into the next major release. ImageLine chose to jump from 12 all the way up to 20, as this would be the year that FL Studio would celebrate their 20th birthday. A major enhancement in FL Studio 20 was the improved audio recording capability, featuring a live visual indication for real-time feedback during recording sessions. The playlist track capacity was expanded to 500 tracks, making it suitable for arranging extensive and complex projects. This version also added the ability to consolidate audio and bounce MIDI in place. The introduction of time signatures offered a more streamlined approach to making tempo and time changes, and like most other things, FL Studio had found an intuitive way of doing it. Flex would be added in version 20.5, and the Vintage Chorus plugin would come later in version 20.9. And that brings us to the current version, which is FL Studio 21. I remember when this one was being rolled out in betas, and I was so hyped for some of the features that they'd add. This update seen massive changes in the way that audio can be manipulated on the timeline, with the introduction of audio clip fades. Samples and loops can now be faded in, out, or of course crossfaded. There's also now a way to control the gain of your audio samples directly from the timeline with the clip gain handle. The file browser was improved, adding the ability to tag and favorite sounds. The search functionality was also greatly improved and made searching for samples a lot easier. Users would now also have total control over the way that FL Studio looked with the new theme editor. From here, you can create, load, and edit themes. And there's a whole section of the FL Studio forum dedicated to themes, and there's some really cool ones to choose from. Version 21 would see the brand new multi-band delay, a delay plugin that can be controlled over 16 bands, the Luxverb plugin, which is a really nice sounding reverb effect, the Vintage Phaser plugin, and the VFX Advanced Step Sequencer. After the initial release, ImageLine have dropped a couple more updates that have added some game-changing features. The launch of FL Cloud integrated an enormous library of samples right into FL Studio's browser. These samples can be downloaded and added into your project without ever leaving your door. Aside from this, the FL Cloud update also added the easiest stem separation workflow I've seen in any software. It's literally as easy as clicking your sample, hitting separate stems, and then selecting the parts that you want. Then to top the FL Cloud update off, we also seen the introduction of AI mastering. Users could now choose a mastering option from the export menu. Choose the genre you're producing and let FL Studio do its thing. It seems that ImageLine are heavily focused on these sort of algorithmic and AI plugins, as they'd also drop a brand new chord generator tool into the piano roll. This is still brand new, so I'd imagine that this will see some changes in the future, but all of these features just go to show how FL Studio are still innovating. Whether it was scale highlighting in the piano roll, gross beat, or even this FL Cloud integration, FL Studio have always had a thing or things that set them aside from other doors. The fact that they offer lifetime updates and allow you to upgrade to higher versions for just the price difference is amazing. And the plugins, features, and upgrades that they continue to put out are amazing too. One thing is for sure though, the future of FL Studio is looking very bright, and I can't wait to see what comes next. This video took a surprisingly long time to make, so if you enjoyed it, let YouTube know by hitting the like button. Also, let me know in the comments what DAW you use. I've just left a couple of other videos on the screen in case you're looking for something else to watch. Thank you all for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one.